Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos, bienvenido. Welcome to Culinary Traditions of the Diaspora Latino-Americana. I'm Lisa Martin with Silver Spring Town Center, and this has become one of my favorite programs to celebrate food from a particular region of the world. We've already done the PI community in May. We also did the African Diaspora last month, and we're going to do more. So stay tuned. We have the whole of Latin America, including Brazil, as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. And speaking of Brazil, our host is Iane Campos-Siddiqui, who's a good friend of mine.
How's everything?
Yeah, so Iane's going to be hosting. And before we get started, though, I wanted to tell you about a couple other events we had coming up. Many of you had joined us last week for Humberto's Art Talk, which was fabulous. Art is life, life is art. Humberto's here with us with his wonderful wife, Geraldina. Our next program is a week from today, our art salon, which is getting back to your roots. So this month, we're kind of exploring our heritage and our family trees and heritage. We had a wonderful Under the Tree program with poet and artist Neha Misra talking about family trees and the symbolism of trees in general. I'm also just a new to Ancestry.com and having all kinds of surprises with that, especially doing your DNA. So it's a really fascinating thing to do. So we are celebrating family and heritage this month, and what better way to do that than to talk about food. And I just want to mention we are going to have our Veterans Concert, Tribute to America's Veterans Concert, on Thursday, November 10th at the American Legion. And that's at 6 p.m. We have the artist we have coming is Seth Keibel and the Kleztets. So they're doing klezmer music and Django jazz. So it's going to be a fun time. That's on the eve of Veterans Day, Thursday, the 10th of November. All of our events are made possible with generous support from Montgomery County, United Therapeutics, the Arts and Humanities of Montgomery County, Maryland State Arts, and many others. And now let's get with the program. We are recording, by the way. I will invite Iane to the screen now and have her take over as our host. If I can find her. Sometimes we have so many people on the call that I lose. Iane, are you still here? Iane? Okay, so we have lost Iane, I think. How about if I have Humberto and Geraldina come on? Because I know they're old pros at this. So they've been in a similar program for us a few years back. Humberto has anyway. So Humberto and Geraldina represent proudly the wonderful island of Cuba. And
hi folks, and we'll be mercifully brief. First of all, we have a prop here. If you're talking about Cuban food, you got to talk about pig. And I'll make it mercifully brief. Lisa, I'll show. I can't talk without pictures. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen real quick. So I need screen sharing, okay? So if you can give me the screen sharing, I will. But if you talk about Cuban food, it's got to be about pig. I'll never forget a while back when we had the opportunity to talk about this very same topic, and they sat me between a Jewish rabbi and a Muslim imam. And I said, you know, what can I say? I am very respectful of all traditions, very, very respectful. In the islands, we do pigs. And so when we do pigs in our own backyard, we do it we go down to the Eastern market where we where we
You gotta do the,
okay. When we go, yeah, here we go. When we go to the Eastern market, we buy our pigs there, we bring them home, we fix them with what?
mojo.
And what is that?
Mojo is lime, pepper, lots of garlic, and a little bit of pepper, and oregano. And you just really, you salt the pork first, and then you inject, and we don't have any of injecting the pig, but we have a special syringe that injects the pig, and it marinates with this juice for overnight.
And the cool thing is, after we leave it in that cooler overnight, we put it inside what's now called the caja china, the Chinese box. The name comes from Havana's Chinatown, where they didn't have space to dig a hole in the ground. So they invented, so as the mythology says, invented this caja china to put the pig inside. The charcoal goes on top, and that's the pig. Usually we buy it somewhere around 35 pounds, and we have us a party. It's a Cuban party, so you got to have rum, Cuban rum preferable, and lots of children playing around, and a good time. And the accompaniments to the pig include.
Usually it's yuca, which is a root, which is also marinated, where you put olive oil and lemon juice and lots of garlic. So if you don't like garlic, this is not a good meal for you. There's lots of garlic, rice, and obviously beans, and plantains, the sweet plantains.
And it's basically, it's much more of a social thing. The food is primary and secondary. Primary in that, of course, it's got to be good, but you have to have the domino table. You have to have the cigars as well. And so it's all in the spirit of having a good time with family, friends, and members and others that come over. It is a 24-hour ordeal, and we thoroughly enjoy it, as cooking a Cuban meal, including pig, makes it just a real Cuban deal. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Wow, this sounds really delicious. And I could smell it, right? And the whole how people are so ingenious to make the box as a way to replace for you can't dig a hole. It's really cool, really cool. And have you done here in Silver Spring already?
I've done it. We have to do at least one a year for a variety of reasons. The latest one was, if there's any family event, including our grandson's a kindergarten graduation. So we had a caja china, a pig. We invited his classmates, and we had some mariachis over. And so it was we've turned it into a Latino celebration.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. You see, that's the advantage of living in Silver Spring with, like people from everywhere. Thank you so much, Roberto and Geraldine, for sharing with us this. I could smell the summer.
It does
Yes.
smell. It does have a garlicky smell.
Really?
That it starts early.
Yeah, it is a 24-hour thing. It's not, you can't do it like, oh, let's have us a pig and have it. So and good weather helps, and thank God we've had good weather all the time. And when it rains, you open up the rum bottle and it'll be fine.
Oh yeah, then you're warm again, right? Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I apologize that I was disconnected for a while, and everything always happens at the beginning, right? When you're rushing. So thank you so much. My name is Iane Campos-Siddiqui, and I've been here for 20 some years. I got here as a little girl, of course. So, and I want to just introduce myself because I'm going to be hosting tonight, and Lisa asked me to share some quick memory. And my mom is from the border with Bolivia, and my father is from the border with Guyana. So we are from extreme north of Brazil. And I just remember açaí, which here in the rest of the world is eaten as an ice cream. And for us, it's something that you eat with fried fish and fish and food and all the foods. And it's an acquired taste because it tastes a little bit like soil. So it's gonna be a surprise. Yeah, but that's something that I keep in my heart. When our relatives would visit us from north of Brazil, because I grew up in Brasilia, so it's really it was already a diaspora from north to Brasilia. So yeah, who's gonna be our next guest? Is that Gilberto Zelaya? How are you,
Yeah.
Yes. Good
Gilberto?
evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gilberto Zelaya. I have the privilege of serving our 675,000 Montgomery County voters through my efforts at the Montgomery County Board of Elections. I am a first-generation Salvadorian American, born and raised in New York, and I'm a New York transplant. Came down to Montgomery County in the 80s with my family. My parents moved. They thought it was a better location to raise their three sons away from the concrete jungle of New York City. I'm also a true believer of El Cerdo, El Chancho that Remberto does. I had the privilege of having one several years back in celebration when we used to do the Hispanic gala, the student gala, under County Executive Isaiah Leggett. And I could tell you that El Cerdo is really, really good. So if you have the privilege of having one of those with the caja china, I would highly recommend being his friend. Having said that, obviously El Salvador, the food that we're famous for, in addition to a multitude of volcanoes, is a beautiful country. It's a small country. Obviously, we have our history with the Civil War. During the 80s, a lot of Salvadorans transplanted here in the DC area, specifically Adams Morgan. And as they, assembled themselves into the culture and got their economic footing, they moved up Georgia Avenue in New Hampshire into Montgomery County, into other parts of Maryland. Out of the 21% of the population in Montgomery County are Hispanic descent, and the predominant community are Salvadorians, which I represent. And pupusa. If you think of Salvadorians, you think of pupusas. Pupusas, I was born and raised, and I recall when we lived in Gaithersburg back in the 80s when it seemed like it was, a far off city in Montgomery County. My aunt used to sell pupusas from her apartment complex in downtown Silver Spring, right near Rock Creek Park, and those apartments there near Flower Avenue. And I recall as a 14-year-old going to my aunt's house to eat pupusas, and like every 5 minutes, someone was knocking on the door, and she had orders, for mándeme una docena, a dozen or seis, or and it was a way to generate income because it was the growing diaspora here in Silver Spring. And I was looking up some interesting information. The Salvadorian Ministry of Economy published that in the last 5 years, as an income generated to Salvadorians in the United States, pupusa has generated over $87 million as of passive income, right, to many Salvadorian families with informal, income generator. I know my aunt generated income to raise her children, and my cousins are now productive citizens. They're both teachers in Montgomery County Public Schools, and I recall like every 5 minutes, someone was knocking the door for an order of pupusas. The word pupusa comes from the Pipil tribe, which is, and they say it pupusa wa, and they kind of the wa, the W-A, they dropped it many, many years ago. There's this controversy who initiated pupusas, and obviously the Mesoamerican, it was between Mexico and Costa Rica. But at the end of the day, we do it better. So the pupusas are very easy to eat. They're very transportable. I believe Leonardo DiCaprio said that he loves pupusa more than tacos. So they're inexpensive. You know, with two you get full, and we have something called encurtido or curtido, which is kind of like pickled cabbage that accompany the pupusa with tomato sauce. And the pupusas are made with a bunch of, you know, obviously it's cheese. My favorite is cheese with loroco, which is a flour, has kind of a bittersweet taste, but you can make it with shrimp and beans and pork. I've seen all types of multitudes of different variations, and there are numerous restaurants around the Montgomery County area. There's a multitude is a great one, Los Chorros, Hay Jalisco, El Comalito, and there's a lot of food trucks around the Montgomery, the DMV. So my story is pupusas, born and you know was raised with it. It's a quick bite, easy, and I highly recommend trying it. But please be aware, you cannot use a fork nor a knife. You gotta use your fingers, and you will get burnt. Just open the edge, let the steam come out, and then enjoy. And lastly, plug, since I work at the Board of Elections, the voter registration deadline is next Tuesday, October 18th. We need bilingual poll workers, especially in Spanish speakers. And also we would welcome those that speak Portuguese as well. To register to vote, you need to text the word vote, or in Spanish, vota, to 77788. If you need to update or review your voter registration, you could text the word check, or in Spanish, revise, to 77788. Highly encourage you to serve as a poll worker. You do it once, you'll get the bug. I'm still waiting for Humberto's application. Now that he's retired, I know he wants to keep busy. And text the word serve, and in Spanish is servir, to 77788. Two more plugs, and then to request to vote by mail, text the letters VBM to 77788, or VPC for votar por correo, or VBM, vote by mail. And the last one would be, if you do have a mail-in drop box, you know, don't keep it under your pillow, just vote it and send it back. Fill out the voter oath on the return envelope. There's 55 drop boxes across Montgomery County. Text the word box and your zip code to the same number for the nearest drop box or post office locator. And in Spanish, the command is buzón y su código postal al 77788. Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you, Gilberto. Thank you for this lift up about the voting. And yeah, we need that. And thank you for talking about pupusas. I just remember that even in this area here, when we have those food boxes, we make sure that they have maseca to make them. So it's really so specific, right? Is there other countries in Central America that eat pupusa?
There's, you know, with El Salvador, and there's because of immigration, right? A lot of Salvadorans will go out into Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras. But also what's interesting, because of the risk of immigrating to the United States, because a lot of the exodus of the workforce of El Salvador is here in the US or in Europe or even Australia, which is really interesting. There's a lot of Salvadorans going to Australia. And so Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, and Costa Rica, they're coming into El Salvador to work, because during the harvest of sugarcane, frijoles, beans, tobacco, and coffee, because they earn dollars. Unfortunately, El Salvador, many years back, they dollarized El Colón, which was a travesty in itself. And then the economy, it forced a huge exodus. Because something that costs 1 colon now costs $1, and $1 is equal to about eight colones and 75 cents. So the economy didn't really balance itself out. So what happens, a lot of our neighboring countries went into El Salvador to work the fields, and then they adopted pupusas as a meal. And then when they went back to their countries, if you go to Honduras, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, there are a lot of pupuserias. makeshift pupusas restaurants, because they go into El Salvador for the harvest season and they go back out because they're bringing US dollars from El Salvador, and they could, fortify their families and provide an opportunity for economic mobility, as opposed to taking the risk and coming to the US, and the costs and the risk involved with that.
How interesting, right? The economic dynamics, how that spreads into the eating habits. How interesting. Here, Carlos Simon wrote, I am from Trinidad. I love pupusas, plátano, and all the other Caribbean and Latin foods. Yeah, we too, with plátano. Ooh,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
delicious.
plátanos are great. Plátanos are great. We
Yeah.
always have on Sunday mornings a traditional Salvadorian breakfast. And you know how it is with plátanos. You have to like warm up 20 gallons of oil to fry 5 plátanos. So what we do is we go to the local restaurants and I buy plátanos, an order of plátanos on the side, and it's so much easier to microwave. And then the whole house doesn't smell like plátanos for 2 weeks.
Well,
It's a trick.
you feel satisfied for a while, right? Yeah, great. Yeah, and Ramberto is saying, gracias, Gilberto, for your amazing commitment to getting us, all of us, to vote. You rock. Yes.
Thank you. It's a team effort.
Thank you. So now let's listen to Janira, my friend Janira, a friend for long.
You want to say
When
the
we were
story?
teens.
You want to tell the story?
You tell it.
Okay.
Tell us.
Yes. So my name is Janira Murchison. My name is actually Brazilian, but I was born in Mexico. So my mom is Mexican, my dad is Brazilian, so it's a big mix of cultures. So I moved to Brazil when I was 12, and actually I met Iane in the school. We were she was a friend of my sister, one of my best friends too. So then when I came here to the United States, I met her again like 20 years ago. So it was like a big coincidence, but we're still connected. And yeah, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about Mexico traditions. Like I'm saying, I grew up in Mexico. I live in Chiapas for a few years until I was like 6 years old. And so I was very in touch with the indigenous cultures. My dad was is a medical doctor, so he was working with indigenous cultures. And in Brazil, he was also working with in the Amazon with indigenous cultures. And in Mexico, I really have a good memories about so many things, like just coming from school and just going. My mom would say, like, just go and buy tortillas in the corner of, in the market. So I would just go buy tortillas. There's a special machine to make tortillas. So the tortillas is one of the foods that you cannot miss in the table in Mexican cuisine. And you can make tacos, of course. Everybody knows about tacos. Tacos has many flavors. You can put meat. You can make vegetarians. Tacos, the sauces comes with it. So it's very, very international, known, the Mexican cuisine. And the traditional Mexican cuisine embraces an entire heritage of cultures dedicated to maintain the Mexican indigenous customs and cultural traditions. And it has a very roots in the Mesoamerican and pre-Hispanic cuisine. So the Mayas, the Aztec, the Olmecs, there are so many cultures that they blend together, and they bring all this amazing flavoring and colorful, food that is the Mexican cuisine. Now that we're approaching to which is here in United States, Halloween, we celebrate in Mexico the Dia de los Muertos, which is a very traditional holiday, and it's dedicated to our ancestors. They already passed away, so we make altars, and we put like papel picado, which is a tradition in Mexico, with skeletons or skulls, And we put an altar for those people that already passed away, for our family, friends, and we put the food that they really enjoyed when they were alive. For example, we can make a squash and pumpkin dish. This is very traditional. It's a calabaza de tacha, which is with a piloncillo, which is unprocessed sugar cane with the pumpkin that everybody decorate here, and they put it outside the houses. We actually cook that. And actually, that's what I do sometimes here. You know, after Halloween is over, I just get the pumpkin and I just cook for the whole family. And the kids really like it. By the way, I have 2 kids, so they're teenagers. They also, in the altar, we can put like a pan de muerto, which is dedicated for, you know, muerto is dead, so pan for the dead. Mole, which is another very well-known Mexican dish, which is from the 19th centuries, made in a convent, but the nuns in Puebla. Pozole also is a very good, you know, it's like a soup. It's a traditional soup. They could put this corn, hominy corn, with you can put pork or chicken, and you can put radishes, lettuce, and oregano. So it's so much to talk that I don't really know, like yeah. So I have these memories, good memories of all the Mexican traditions. You know, for Christmas, for all this delicious food in Mexico. I also have a lot of memories from Brazil because, you know, I moved to United States 23 years ago. So it's like I just have to blend all that. So the Brazilian culture is really rich also. And I think there's another lady is going to be talking about the Brazilian food. It has a lot of different mix from Africa, from the Italian culture, Portuguese, Indian. Is really a mix of a lot of cultures. And, you know, there's feijoada, you know, with beans, with pork, and different parts of different meats, part of beef. There was made from, you know, the last century, from the slaves. And there's a lot of pizza and pasta. You know, it's a lot of culture from the Italian influence. And in the South, there are a lot of Germans, so there are other different foods. So, yeah.
Great, yeah. So I remember, if I can share that, Janita, that your house is so interesting, the decoration. The
Yeah.
colors are kind of Brazil and Mexico.
Yeah.
That's so beautifully decorated.
Yes.
And when you serve your food, your table is so beautiful. Then she's like, oh, she pays that much attention. I say, yes, I pay attention. You're nice when you receive this mix of foods, right? For you.
Yeah.
You study in São Paulo, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm a biologist. I went to my graduate school in São Paulo for biochemistry, but then for my master's. But then I finished. I didn't finish, so I finished in George Mason for molecular biology. But now I'm working as a medical interpreter. But for many years, I worked in NIH and different other non-governmental agencies, or in the government for biology, doing research.
So we have to take advantage too. That's a good moment that that people know that you all are accomplished in many things. All our guests, and so like. Ta-da, here we have an interpreter translator.
Yeah.
And the services, here she is. She's really good. And Portuguese, of course. Her Portuguese is really good. Great. Yeah.
She was also an avid competitive salsa dancer.
Oh my God.
Yes. I was
More
forgetting
like
that.
bachata. But yeah. Yeah, I love dancing and social dancing. Like 4 years ago, I started going to social events, social dancing, learning salsa, bachata. Now kizomba, zouk. So there is no one week that I don't go dancing. Yeah.
So yeah, let me also, Lisa, when are our salsa downtown Silver Spring? On Tuesdays, right? Every other Tuesday?
Yes, we started doing salsa and Latin dance every other week, every other Tuesday. But our outdoor events have just concluded on the plaza because
Mm-hmm.
they're bringing the ice skating rink in. So we'll have to find places to dance indoors. Maybe at El Golfo, where we have, we started a weekly series at El Golfo, which is called Wonderful Wednesdays. And this Wednesday, we have the Caribbean Steel Drum Ensemble, Positive Vibrations, who are excellent. They're a youth ensemble, and they're excellent. So come on out to El Golfo on Flower Avenue. El Golfo, by the way, is owned by one of our beloved board members. And both of these ladies here, Iane and Janita, are both newer board members with SSTCI. We have an incredibly diverse board, and we happen to have four people representing Latin America on our board. Ada is one of them who's been on for many years, and she's in El Salvador now and was going to try to log in to share her food stories in El Salvador, but we'll see if she can. But it's always great to hear, and I was just so excited to hear about your Mexican food, because that's my favorite cuisine. Having grown
That's
up
great.
on
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very rich cuisine, and it's so many flavors and chilies, and so much, it's a blend. It's delicious. One of my favorites too.
to me.
Yeah, now with Halloween coming, there are so many things Mexican, right, going on because of the
I
Dia
went
de
to a
Muertos.
For the celebration of Dia de los Muertos. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that so many cultures have some kind of
Similar.
collaboration, right?
Mhm.
But it's interesting how at the same time so colorful the colors, the beauty of the Mexican way to handle that makes us a little less scared, right? Do you feel that?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, the Mexican, we don't believe like there's the dead after death. Basically, the spirit is still alive, and they're around us in a way. So the food is to give to them and to celebrate together that day with the
And for people who don't
family.
know about Dia de los Muertos tradition, the animated film Coco is great for
Exactly.
children.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
story, and the animation is beautiful too. So it shows, and I've been in Mexico for Dia de los Muertos myself, also with all the marigold. And my own birthday had the theme of Dia de los Muertos. That I'm not a skeleton yet.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the movie is amazing. It's really nice. Not just for the kids, for adults, and it showed the tradition. Exactly. And how important is the family getting together to have a meal as a family and share and pass your tradition over generations. Yeah.
Right.
And also the sense that you're not dead until people stop talking about you, right? That way to talk about you, remember your things, your ways. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Janina.
you.
So
Thank
we can
you.
come around and ask more questions later on. Now we're gonna hear Jaime and Josie. Are you guys? Yes. Are you really at the beach, or that's just to make us
No,
jealous? What is that?
I wish that could be just about any Caribbean country, island. No, that's a courtesy of Zoom. It could be Puerto Rico, but which we represent. It could also be Cuba, which Humberto and his wife represent, or any other island. I'll try to be brief, as Humberto was, and I'll just say a quick. This hat has a story. So when Josie and I were married back in 1984, we honeymooned in Puerto Rico, and we stayed in the Paradores Puertorriqueños, which are Puerto Rican country inns situated throughout the island. So you land in San Juan, of course, and we are in a hotel in El Condado. We rent a car and we go to Luquillo Beach, one of the most beautiful beaches you can imagine. And we run into an Anglo couple. Those of you who remember Gilligan's Island, Uh, and so you got two beach bums and a husband and a wife, and she's pregnant. And so we start a conversation, and so we're talking, and I'm wondering, so I asked, so where do you live? And he said, well, right here on the beach. I said, okay. And how do you survive? And he said, well, I make hats. And I said, what kind of hats do you make? He says, well, I make these palm hats. And I said, how much? And he said, $5. I said, done. So this hat I've had since 1984, de la playa de Luquillo, hecho de palmas, very authentic Puerto Rican hat. As far as cooking, oh my gosh, I'm just going to do this very quickly. I was talking with my nephew, or texting with my nephew Carlito, who's in Bayamón, Puerto Rico, which is a suburb of San Juan. And he listed a few basic, traditional, classic Puerto Rican dishes, which are, I grew up with, Josie, but arroz con gandules, pasteles y lechón asado, mofongo, arroz con pollo, bistec encebollado con arroz y habichuelas rosadas, patitas de cerdo con garbanzos. Esto se acompaña con arroz con tocino. So these are very, very typical Puerto Rican dishes. They're not unique to Puerto Rico. Humberto started with lechón asado. We make that in Puerto Rico. There's a famous place in the town of Cayey, toward the islands, una lechonera, where they do el guabate, where they do nothing but the whole pigs all day, and you can get the whole pig. You get morcillas, blood sausages, guineitos. But I would say that the typical, during the holidays for sure, Christmas, the prototypical Puerto Rican dish would be arroz con gandules, pasteles y lechón asado. And so it just so happens that, well, Lisa put in her email that if you had a little dish you could show. We made arroz con gandules. Josie, I did the prep work, and Josie cooked it yesterday. We had it for supper. I don't know if you can.
You tip it like this.
Ah, okay. Can you see?
You gotta push it down.
Can you see that? I don't know.
You gotta take off the
You-
thing.
Put in front of you, like when you put in front of
okay.
yourself, and then you can see.
Oh, there.
It's in
Put it-
front of one of you.
have
Yeah.
the background.
We have the
Yes, right
background.
there.
It's not showing. So
Take off the
it-
background.
that's okay. This is the typical
There you go.
arroz.
There you go.
Right.
Yummy.
Arroz con gandules
But the
It-
biggest.
is typical. You don't have to wait just for Christmas to do that. Another very typical Puerto Rican dish son pastelillos, which is just corn flour. Now you can buy it in a pack, and you basically fill it with
Lo que sea.
lo que sea. It could be corned beef, it could be ground beef, it could be cheese, queso, pastelillos con queso. And it just so happens that we had some in the freezer.
Yeah.
So
Save 'em.
we cooked
Yeah.
one. Yeah, you
There
can
you
just
go.
hold it, just
There you
enseñar.
go.
There's a
Pastelillo.
pastelillo de carne, a typical Puerto Rican dish. You eat this with a plate of rice and beans. And now, when we
There you
say
go.
beans in Puerto Rico, we specify. So it is either arroz con habichuelas rosadas, so pink beans, arroz con habichuelas coloradas, red beans, arroz con frijoles negros,
We say frijoles.
frijoles, pero puede ser frijoles
Sí, pero no
blancos.
decimos habichuelas. That's true.
Frijoles, so black beans, white beans, or garbanzos. So we're very specific as to the type of beans that go with the rice.
The biggest one is that.
And yeah, this is the biggest dish. And then the other, what following Humberto, and then Josie will talk about una carne mechada, which is also very, very typical. Making lechon, again, is not typical to Puerto Rico. Everybody in the, I think, diaspora has theirs. But it takes a long time, as Humberto said. There is one other very typical Puerto Rican dish, if you could get it, pasteles, which are a lot of vegetables that are ground, used to be with a grater. And so you would grind the
Guayo.
unguayo, the different vegetables, and you would always get a little bit of knuckle and a little bit of skin and a little bit of your blood, because it would just be that difficult. It would take hours. This was a laborious process. And it just so happens that we had two pasteles in our freezer. and which we made, gosh, I think it was in Christmas, last Christmas. This takes forever. And so Josie and I, when we do it, it's once a year and it's around Christmas. And we have, like Gilberto, we are transplanted New Yorkers. We're from Brooklyn, Gilberto. And when we would go, we have a large family. So they look to us for La Navidad to take pasteles. So when we make them, it takes us 3 days. And if we're lucky, we can do 150 pasteles. And we take those to New York. And so we give 8 to this person and 6 to this one and 4 and 3 to one. And the number 150 or 172, whatever it is, really, if you do the math, it just drops like a rock. And so we save a few for us. And I had thought that we had finished our pasteles months ago.
I was hiding.
And Josie said yesterday, no, quedan dos. And I said, oh my gosh. Okay, so we did not, it takes an hour it takes 3 days for us to do this because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we break it apart and then it takes 1 hour to cook. So this one is frozen solid. We have 2 left and we're looking very, very much forward to doing that. And so maybe Josie, talk about it, la carne mechada.
Well, yeah, well, first with the pastel is very similar to the typical con masa de maíz that the Mexicanos do. But instead of maíz, we make the masa with green bananas, very green, plátanos, a few plátanos, and a lot of caldo from the cooking of pieces of pork. And then instead of chicken, we put the pork meat inside. And you have to buy the paper, you have to buy the strings. I get my stuff over there on Piney Branch Road, right by my work. And so it takes a few days because we first make the masa. Well, actually, I first make the meat because I need the caldo. Then I make the masa, use the caldo, and then I start preparing it with the paper. And you have to have achotes so it can slip out. And then the last part is to tie them up. You have to be a good tire.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and then you save them and you boil them. But there's lots of things that we James said carne mechada, which is a rump roast, and you stab it and you stuff it with jamón de cocinar, and you just put it on the stovetop with sauces and all the seasonings, and that jamón gives that rump roast a really different taste. So that's just one of the others, carne mechada.
And the basic, todo esto se acompaña con all of these dishes are accompanied with the base is white rice, el arroz blanco, and it could be the rump roast, it could be the lechon asado, the beans, it could be bacalao, codfish, una ensalada de bacalao. So anyway, that's a very big taste of the cocina boricua. And I don't know if you can see that. You can't see it because of the light, but yeah, la cocina boricua. And so there it is. And I'm just going to give a very quick shout out to Roy Likes. I have not seen Roy in years since I was at the Silver Spring Library Advisory Committee. It's good to see you, Roy. And so with that, we hand it back to you.
Yes, wow, yeah. Who was giving us a suggestion here to eat before coming to the panel? Because you guys are describing how you make the meat and then you get the caldo and how you make the paste. I'm like, wow, that sounds really delicious. What is it called? Is it a parchment paper that you guys wrap?
Yeah, parchment paper. You get it at the Spanish store and you get the string, and that's what you use to wrap them up.
But it's meat inside, or there's some kind of
no, you have
dough?
you put the parchment paper out. You put a little bit of oil based with achote or naros to make it colorful, and then you put the masa, which is kind of like think of cream of wheat, kind of that texture, and then you put the meat on top, and then you do a little folding thing here. You pack it up like a present rectangle, and then you tie it up tight, and then you boil it for an hour.
Okay.
And then
how far have you been keeping this
solid.
one?
Huh?
We've
the
had
one you hid.
Yeah, I didn't, as I say, these were made the last 2, which won't last much longer, last Christmas. So once they're made and they're frozen, they will last. And so now tomorrow, I guess we'll just boil a big pot of water. And when it returns to a boil, you just let it
Yeah.
cook for 1 hour and they're done.
Yeah, just like the tamales, where they get the flavor from the chicken that you put in and the flour, well, no, what is the cornmeal? The cornmeal gets that flavor. The same thing with the pateles, the masa gets that flavor from the meat.
Okay, wow, that's interesting. And do you guys have any special place in this area where you can have those delicacies ready so you don't have to do the whole work?
There used to be a restaurant, I think it was on New Hampshire Avenue, that was the owner, I forget her name. She was Boricua, Puerto Rican. I don't know that they're still there.
Somebody told me there might be one in PG County.
Yeah, I don't really know many of Puerto Rican restaurants to say. So you got to find a Puerto Rican kitchen someplace.
Or go to Harlem, New York.
Or go to New
Yeah.
York City. Yeah. You go to El Barrio, you'll find a lot of them.
Yeah, as well, I would mind I would go as well to Puerto Rico, right? Because that weather, if you're going away already. Great, wow, there are so many comments here. If you could, we can come back again around and then you guys can comment later on that. Thank you so much. And you almost fooled us with your hat, and at least me, I was like, wow, amazing you already with that background, right? That's really cool how you guys did it. Really cool.
No, we're
Okay,
in
thank you
spring.
so much. Now we're going to another part of the world, and we're going to talk to Sonia Pessoa. Sonia Pessoa is from
Mute me.
Brazil. Where is she? Let me see. Ei, Sônia, tudo
Hey,
bem?
tudo jóia?
Tudo
Ah,
jóia. Talk to us.
ótimo.
Tell a little bit
Yeah.
about you.
Thank you for being here. I'm still in Salvador, you know, when you leave the city is still on you. So yes, I came back last week. I'm from Salvador, the north of Brazil, called the capital of Bahia, the land of happiness, no? I'm a nutritionist, dietitian, and a samba dance instructor. And so food is part of my life. Daily, I'm always talking about food. And Brazil has enormous foodways. I mean, every area of Brazil talking about food. If you go to the north, to the south, to the central, but I want to stick with Bahia because again, we have a mix of food from the indigenous people, from the Portuguese and from the African. You know, Bahia is 90% of African descendants. So we have a lot of food that come from them. And one of the ingredients that we cook in Brazil that is very similar to most of the Latin America country, also Africa and Caribbean, is using coconut. We always use coconut, everything that we do. And one of the dishes that is very common in Bahia called moqueca. And moqueca can be made with fish, with dry catfish, like Jamie said, na bacalhau. You can make also with shrimp. You can make with eggs. In Salvador, we do add eggs to some of the fish moqueca. We can just do a fish moqueca. And the ingredients are coconut milk. You know, like if you use a shrimp, you season the shrimp with dry shrimp because we use a lot of dry shrimp and that comes from the African heritage. You don't usually use salt because the dry shrimp is very salty. So you season it with dry shrimp and garlic, and then you use palm oil. So you're going to put the shrimp or the fish, and you're gonna saute on the palm oil. And then you're gonna add tomatoes, green peppers, onions, cilantro, and you add the coconut milk and lime juice and malagueta pepper. Right? So you let that cooked, and the coconut milk is the one who gives the thickness of the dish, you know, and have the beautiful smell. The coconut, the palm milk, the palm oil give you the beautiful smell, and all the mixture of all the vegetables together, you know, and you eat that with coconut rice. it's very common in like in El Salvador. I work with a lot of Salvadorians. They do arroz con leche, where you use sugar, coconut milk. Actually, some of the country they use coconut milk, and some of you just use milk. You can do the coconut milk with sugar and do arroz con leche. But we do that in a salt way. Like if you're doing a regular steamed rice, instead of adding water, we add coconut. So your rice is cooked on the coconut milk. So you just put cilantro, you put garlic, and you put coconut milk, and the rice is cooked right there. So it's very, nutrition-wise, is very actually bad for you because coconut milk has a lot of saturation. It's very high in saturated fats. I do not recommend eat that very often, but in Bahia we do eat that every week. Like Friday, we call comida baiana. Is very common. Every place you go in Salvador, Friday you have comida baiana, which is muqueca, vatapá, coconut rice. Also the palm oil is very high in saturated fats. That has the vitamin A, which is good for you, but then when you look the saturation is not there so good. So taste-wise is delicious. The smell. I always say the food from Bahia engage all the five senses because you see the beauty, you smell, you hear the noise of the bubbling, you tasting, you touching. So it is a wonderful dish, but it's very high in saturation. Also, you can talk about the vatapá, which has yuca flour, which is something also that comes from the African. And you make almost like a puree, yuca flour, coconut milk, onions, and nuts, peanut and cashew, and palm oil. So you blend all of that and you make a puree. It is delicious, but if you think about palm oil again, coconut milk, nuts, yuca flour, it's like a disaster if you're trying to lose weight, if you have high cholesterol. So you have to eat in moderation, but it is delicious. We also have
That's the
acarajé.
dietitian speaking, right,
Yes.
Sonia?
We have acarajé, which is also deep fried in palm oil, The acarajé is made with black eyed pea. It's a puree of black eyed pea, and you blend with onion. You fry, deep frying in palm oil. So all the food from Salvador, they're really high in fat. They're very high in calorie, but they are delicious. And I think you have to enjoy food at one point, exercise, dance, eat, and just go out, walk, dance. And at least you can engage your happiness a little bit in your stomach. Okay.
Yeah, so then you can tell us too why you guys have one of the best music in Brazil to dance. That's why you need all those calories to dance all those
Yes.
dances, axé and samba de roda,
Samba de roda, samba reggae. Yes, you have to
the
dance.
ones that you teach. So you feed us and then you make us dance, right? We're in good hands with you.
Yes. So yes, once a year I plan a festival called Festival Afro Bahia. Once a year I have the Taste of Bahia. We just have that in July, where I have acarajé, muquecas, and So if you guys are around DC next year, come and enjoy some of the food. And I think maybe one day we just do this meeting in somebody's house where each one of us can cook something. I think it'd be delicious if you try
wow.
that, right? I
Yeah,
will do the
that's a good
muqueca.
idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. You hear, Lisa? That's a good idea for an event, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. We would love to do
Yeah.
cooking in your home and, and that would be a wonderful experience. Call me if you want to do it or find someone else to host
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And when is the Bahia festival, your festival?
It's the second week of June. So June, it will be June 8 to 12 of 2023.
Okay, great. We will,
Festival.
yeah.
Yes, it's really nice. So let me talk about a little bit because I think she's too modest to talk about it. It's really a lot. It's what, like 4 days, 5 days, Sonia, and then
It's
there are
4 days. It's 4 days. And usually I bring the culture of Bahia in terms of dance, music. I always do a panel discussion, but it's really to bring the African heritage, to DC, and we have people learning, dancing, music, food, and food is the one that people love the most, of course. And I have to talk about two caipirinhas, because you can't talk about Bahia food from Brazil if you're not talking about caipirinha. You need to bring that too, right? Everybody loves that. And in Salvador, we do the caipiroscas when you use different tropical fruits. Then we have not only with lime, because the caipirinha with the lime, but we use a lot of tropical fruits in Salvador. And I think in Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo there too, but each region they may have their own fruits. So we do that with cachaça, and it's delicious. So after you eat a plate with muqueca and vatapá, now you have a little bit of the caipirinha to add more the calorie because of the sugar, but at least you forget a little bit what you just ate. You don't feel so bad about,
That's
that many
hilarious.
calories.
That's
But yes.
hilarious. Yes, great. So we can come around back later to talk a little more, and if people have
Yeah.
questions too. Thank you so much,
You're
Sonia.
welcome.
And now we're gonna talk to Bertie and Phil. Thank you so much.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
So happy to be here. I'm Bertie and this is Phil. So we both grew up in El Paso, Texas. I'm grew up in a big Mexican family with 8 kids and mom and dad, and my mom was always cooking, and it was always cooking lots of food at one time, lots of tacos and enchiladas and that kind of thing. Growing up right on the border of Mexico, we went into Mexico all the time. We can actually see Mexico from my mom's front yard. And so we were always going over there and eating. So just like everybody, food was a very big deal. It surrounded all of our festivities, weddings, baptismals, that kind of thing. Going over to my grandmother's every Sunday, lots of food. My favorite as a child was the pan dulce. We had this great bakery called Bowie Bakery, and we would go there and get all the pan dulce, and that was a big deal. But the biggest tradition in our family as far as surrounding cooking was New Year's Day. My father on New Year's Eve would start cooking the menudo. And menudo is kind of like a pozole, except we never called it pozole. We didn't, I don't even remember having pozole growing up. But so it's a soup, and it's red chile with hominy, white hominy, and tripe. And that always scares everybody because it's the intestines of the pig, of the cow. And I never really thought about it. I just ate it, right? Like we always had lengua with the tongue, and I loved that stuff. And then when people would start talking about it, and then you'd start thinking, oh, wow, really? That's what I'm eating. But I didn't really think about it at the time. But anyways, sadly, my parents didn't teach us Spanish. They didn't talk to us very much in Spanish because I grew up at a time where you had to Americanize your children. And so sadly, I didn't learn Spanish as I should have, unfortunately. But I guess for us, the biggest treat is every time we go back to El Paso, we eat everything we can, because here we don't find Mexican food very much, especially menudo. So for us, menudo is a very big deal. So for us, the tradition of menudo on New Year's Day, the thing about menudo is people used to eat menudo after a big party at midnight or at 2 o'clock in the morning. Menudo, you could have it in the morning, in the afternoon, or night, it didn't matter. And you'd have it with your francesitos, which was the bread, and limon, and chili flakes, and onion, raw onion. And if you're lucky, you had patas with pig's feet in there. And it was just really, really lots of fun. So for my husband, when we were first dating, the initiation for new boyfriends and girlfriends was to try my father's menudo on New Year's Day.
So shall I take it from there?
Yeah.
So
tell me.
menudo is tripe that's all cut up, right? Sometimes you're cleaning off all the fat, you're boiling it. If my father-in-law did not like to put the lime in there, I think he liked the house to smell like stinky.
Awful.
It's
It was
awful.
The smell was the worst.
It's the worst. So anyway, I wrote this article and I'm going to read it to you. This is about my first experience with menudo. And it's called Menudo at the Venzors, proof that love is thicker than menudo. Well, almost. Oh, let me see. How about we eat a bowl of cow intestines mixed with hominy and chili after a night of heavy drinking? Wow, that sounds really good. You know what else? We could add some raw onions and oregano to the brew and squeeze some lime into it. We could even throw in a couple of patas just for kicks, if you know what I mean. I stood expressionless, my face white with trepidation as my father, the father of my new girlfriend, handed me a bowl of piping hot, rotten smelling, slimy tripe menudo. I should have known that something was up when I received the invitation to eat breakfast at their house on New Year's Day. Heck, I didn't even know them, the Venzors. Why did I ignore my inner voice? Why? And especially this time, why did I ignore my feelings about this? The room around me began to spin, and my girlfriend's father, his voice sounded something like the teacher on Charlie Brown. Womp, 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 womp. Try it. You'll love it. I sat down so that I wouldn't fall down, and I slowly pulled the bowl towards me. Why didn't I just spill the bowl of this molten red globby matter all over the table and run for the door? There were many other girls in the world I could date. Why did I have to pick this one? At this moment, she didn't even seem worth it.
Oh,
I'm sorry, love.
it's painful.
There was no escape. I knew that there was a vat of this stuff sitting on the stove in the kitchen, and if need be, the Venzor would hunt me down and pour it down my throat. There would be no reprieve for me, at least not today. I held my breath, literally, and brought the spoon close to my lips, my hand trembling all the way. A few drops escaped from the spoon and splattered onto the tablecloth. Less to swallow. Praise Jesus. A small but important concession. The liquid hit my lips. My girlfriend's father and mother leaned towards the table. My girlfriend exhaled behind my shoulder. I was going to be sick. I knew it. The gluttonous mess of slab of stomach fat slid past my tongue and down my throat. Yes, I was going to be sick. Very, very sick. God or a saint intervened. I'm convinced of that to this day. It had to have been St. Jude, the patron saint of impossible situations, or possibly the Holy Mother or God herself. It was the only through divine intervention that I did not blow chunks of tripe halfway across the table and onto the wall, but I didn't. I slowly dipped my spoon into the bowl again and raised another spoonful to my lips. I carried on small talk, shaking my voice all the way through to they could see my bluff. Can't wait to watch football tonight. Boy, sure is cold out there. I must have been convincing, brilliant Shakespearean incarnate. I made it seem as if these new foods was such as cooked cow guts was something ordinary for me. Finally, I had eaten enough and I could see the bottom of the bowl. Mecca, heaven, the Garden of Eden, the resurrection of Christ. My gracious host motioned to serve me another bowl. Oh God, no. Get away, you evil demons. No, thank you, I said politely. I am still a bit full from the midnight snack I had last night. Plus, my mother always told me to not make a pig of myself at other people's house. She was right. Glory be to my mom. She was absolutely understandably right. No, I can't eat another bite. I am so full, but my hat goes off to the chef, really. Each year for a couple of years, this was the dreadful ritual when people in love will do to win and keep the one they love's heart's infection. Roll the camera 20 years forward. It's New Year's morning. My wedding anniversary was last night. My girlfriend is my best friend and my wife of 15 years. We will be having menudo at my in-laws' house, and I just can't wait. It's one of the few times of the year that I can actually have a beer with breakfast. I love everything about menudo. I love the smell. I love the taste. I love the preparation. I have even made it from scratch myself. I have been so desperate for menudo that I have doctored it from the canned stuff, believe it or not. It helps me get over my homesickness. I put an extra chili powder in it. I love the oregano, the lime, the thick francesones. Everything, the things that I brought a Bowie bakery and toasted in the oven. But most of all, I love the fact that I didn't run out that door, that I stayed to understand my wife, her family, her culture, her traditions, her childhood. It's now part of my tradition and will be part of my son Giuseppe Vincent's tradition. What an honor to eat menudo on the first day of a new year with the Benzors. I wouldn't give it up for anything in the world. So that's my story.
This is love. This is love.
But I do want to say this other thing, and to me, this is really impactful. It did grow on me. I do love it. I made it the other day, and Bertie wouldn't eat it, but I was like, I want to have this menudo. But you know what? My father-in-law, we loved each other tremendously. And the last time that I ever saw him, he was on the front porch of his house. This was right after Christmas Day. And he says, Phil, he says, son, he says, remember, he says, on New Year's Day, we're going to have menudo. And I turned around and I looked at him and I said, you know what, Dad? I said, I wouldn't have missed it for the world. That was the last thing I ever said to my father-in-law as I walked out the door. So to me, it was like, and he was so proud of this article. I mean, he passed it all over the place to all of his friends. So anyway, menudo is, to me, it's life. It's symbolic. It's about my life. It's about my father-in-law particularly. So anyway, that's my story.
So if anybody in the area knows a place with good menudo, please let us know. We'd like to find some.
Yeah, I think somebody asked that around here. Also, Barbara is asking, hi, Barbara, I'm so happy that you're here with us. Menudo question, do some people add the pig's feet and gel from the hooves to the soup?
Oh, yeah.
Or I'm thinking of some other
Yeah,
soup.
they call them patas, and that's why I said in this article, you might get a kick out of that.
Oh, wow, that's a pun.
They chew on the, but they just, it's good.
But it's like, it's a cultural tradition. I mean, there's places all over the world that do the exact same thing. I mean, Italian culture has something that's very, very similar to menudo.
What is that? I'm Italian.
Yeah, I don't know, but I've heard it's a tripe soup. It's a tripe soup with a red chili sauce. Same thing.
It's delicious.
Yeah. I live very close to the Tijuana border, and I think the menudo with the pig's feet is popular here.
Yeah, that's totally true. It's very popular along the U.S.-Mexico border. So, and let me put a plug in just very quickly. I have to do this every place I'm at. For El Paso, Texas is the safest city over 500,000 population in the entire country. And the immigration and immigrants get a bad rap on that. And I just want to, that is one of my things. I just want to tell people it's the safest city over 500,000 population in the country. It's been that way for decades.
I didn't hear you. What's the safest city?
El Paso, Texas.
Oh, El Paso.
Right on the U.S.-Mexico border. It's also the largest international twin city anywhere in the world on a border, directly on a border. Safe city. People take care of each other. So all this crap that we hear about, immigrants and, this and that and, rapists and thugs and all the other bullshit is bullshit. So my wife is hitting me.
I am.
She's hitting me. Right now, she's hitting me. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll shut up.
Wow, how interesting. Yeah. And about menudo, then do you think your father-in-law did that like as some task that you have
absolutely.
to go through?
Initiation.
It was an initiation.
Initiation to the family.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like that was interesting. And how you guys end up being like getting so close to each other through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. In Brazil, we have this buchada de bode. I don't know, you guys, Sonia and Janira, buchada de bode is like the tribes of goat tribes. And in Brazil, they cook for a long time, right, Sonia? The cook here is Sonia, not me. I just the eater. And it's interesting that all politicians in Brazil, when they want to impress
Yeah.
the the voters in the northeast of Brazil, right, Sonia? They go
Yes,
into
yes.
they go into buchada de bode at the markets.
Yeah.
And
We
quite a
also have something called sarapatel, which
Oh,
with the
yes,
cow intestine.
Oh,
And it is delicious, but like you say, can be gross because you use the whole intestine and you put a lot of malagueta,
oh wow.
and it
Pepper.
takes at least like 6 hours to cook the whole thing. And you eat
Yeah.
with farinha, with yuca flour. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a labor of
Delicious.
love.
Yeah, so the politicians, when they want to impress like a Northeast, right now in Brazil, that's very, the elections it's kind of polarized between North and South, right? And the politicians go there to eat.
Yeah.
But it's really strong. I think in your case, Philip, also the fact that the menudo is such a strong food, right?
Right.
I think you eat, and if you're not ready for that, it's
Right. Yeah.
really,
Right.
a real kick, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
Totally.
some of the politicians really passed out or really got sick in front of everybody.
Oh.
You're like, you're not voting for that guy, right? That guy couldn't eat the menudo. Sorry.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
interesting that, yeah. So quite a few candidates. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you so much. And
Good.
I laughed so hard with this article that you wrote. I bet your
Yeah.
father-in-law loved it.
Did.
And Hilberto asks in the question for Bertie, how many boyfriends did your dad manage to?
So some of my sisters actually married, they actually married the men who didn't try the menudo. So they were given a hard time.
Yeah, they weren't the favorite though.
Yeah.
They weren't the
No.
favorite. I was the favorite. I was the
Right.
favorite, spouse.
Right. I can believe that. You're one of my favorite people all around. You both are. So, and
You won that. You won.
I
You
won.
earned that,
I
right?
and Bertie's too modest to mention, she's an artist and she does Mexican folk art altars and the sugar skulls that are popular during this time of year with Dia de los Muertos coming up. And I've always wondered, can you eat the sugar skulls? Because I've found some where they said you could eat it, like break it up and eat it. But most of the time, I think they have like a spray on it, right? A glaze.
Yeah,
That's the
sometimes
problem.
to preserve them. And so often they're just handled so much, you really don't want to.
It's basically a sugar.
Theoretically, you could. I mean, if you didn't spray them with anything, and
Right.
it depends on what the binding agent is, but
Probably.
Yeah, right. Well, we had you present on them a couple of years ago. It was great. Years ago, this time of year. So great to see you guys.
To see
Thank
you
you
too.
so
Great,
much.
Thanks for
yeah, I had
having
so
us.
much fun. Now let's see if Ada is here. That's is Ada here
Yes,
already?
Ada is. We just found her. She's in El Salvador right now.
Hello, Ada. Where are you?
Unmute. Okay.
Yeah, she's probably connecting. I don't know if she can hear us. Oh yeah, you. Hey, Ada. You mute. I can't hear you.
Unmute.
How can I unmute her?
Yeah, she has to do it. I sent her the request to ask to unmute. Ada, can you see that?
Oh no.
There's no way of doing it. There's no way of unmuting her. She has to be the one to undo it.
Get back.
She might find it. As many of you know, Ada owns El Golfo restaurant, 8737 Flower Avenue in Silver Spring near Piney Branch. They have wonderful, wonderful food, pan Latin food. Just while Ada's hopefully she's going to get connected here, but I love their fajitas. Tofik and I often get the steak fajitas, and I love their appetizer, the sweet corn tamales. and also the sopa de res, I highly recommend. And for those who like plantains, I usually have them hold the plantains because I try to kind of be a little more low carb if possible. But yeah, so there's the beef in it is on the bone. It's a beautiful caldo broth, you know.
We can't hear you still.
Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear Ada.
Ada's
And going full. Yeah, also their ceviche is really good. Have you tried their ceviche?
I'm gonna stop your video and then we'll start it again. Okay. I'm gonna ask her to unmute now and ask to start video. I think she'll get it now. Hopefully you have to get the little thing on there. And Rimberto's is El Golfo restaurant. Flower Avenue also has a wonderful outdoor space and awesome service. Yes, they really, you know, during COVID, they converted the parking lot space, you know, space in the parking lot into a beautiful patio, and you forget that you're like in the parking lot there. So she's decorated it really well, and you know, we've been doing our wonderful Wednesdays at El Golfo, and this Wednesday is our last one. We're going to have the Caribbean Steel Drum Group, Positive Vibrations.
Is it going to be this week, Lisa? Positive Vibrations.
Yeah, this Wednesday from 6 to 8 at El Golfo restaurant. Just show up, and yeah, so I keep sending her, I keep clicking ask to unmute, ask to start video, maybe. See, that's why it's so hard to maneuver on the phone, on the cell phones, because you don't
that's
see
difficult, yeah.
stuff there. So I mean, Ada could tell you so much more. There's sopa de mariscos. I think Rimberto probably knows that. Rimberto, what's a favorite dish you have from El Golfo? Because
it depends, because so many of their dishes go wonderful with their Cadillac margarita. And so, but no, and actually what I love about Ada's restaurant is that it's so Latin American, meaning it's not exclusively one cuisine or the other, and the ambience and it's just out of this world. So just it's you go for the food and stay for the people.
Yes, I mean, and Ada has a stage, indoor and outdoor stages, and so she welcomes so many performing arts groups almost many nights of the week, and gives back to the community. We get a percentage of proceeds. So Ada's a huge proponent of giving back to the community. So support El Golfo, even if you just get takeout. I sometimes just get takeout. And she's not able to unmute though. So, but we love Ada, and I'm glad we at least got to see you, Ada. Te quiero mucho, Ada, and you know, have a good trip, and we'll see you when you get back, and we'll see the rest of you at El Golfo hopefully this Wednesday night, 6 to 8 for the Caribbean music. Yeah, thanks, Ada.
Lisa,
yes.
I just want to comment that that's a funny thing. I think I told you that the laundromat right on by El Golfo, they give you drying for free Monday through Friday, so you can bring your clothes, leave there, and you can have nice margaritas Cadillac there while your clothes, and then you have a good excuse to have margaritas in the middle of the week or something, right?
Yeah,
which I did a few times.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's even walking distance from your house. So how lucky could you be, Iane?
Yes, exactly. So people see me and they're like, is your machine broken again? I said, oh, oops, that excuse is wearing out.
It just has a better selection for the bar than at home, right?
Yes. Let's see some of the comments that other people had here. Sorry that Natalie, I think Natalie was saying that she lived part-time in Puerto Rico. That's nice to live part-time somewhere. Is she here still?
Is Natalie?
Natalie, yes, Natalie
Oh,
Ambrose is
Natalie
here.
Ambrose, I see her. Natalie, can we say hello to you?
Yes, I
How is it? What a hard life, right? To live part-time in Puerto Rico. How is
Well,
it?
actually Puerto Rico is wonderful, but it's especially since Maria, it's not that easy.
Oh,
Actually, my partner, where she lives on the southwest corner, the Hurricane Fiona went over there, and it was only a Category 1, but they had she's basically been without electricity since the hurricane. So Puerto Rico's got some issues with the power company, all that. But anyway, it's a wonderful place, and I love it. I miss it. I'm up here doing some stuff, but I go back and forth, and I've been to Brazil and Mexico and places. So this is a really wonderful presentation. Thank you.
What's your favorite Puerto Rican dish?
Well, I would have to say, Jamie and Jaime and Josie said, it would have to be the pernil and the lechon, and of course I love yuca, so that's more Cuban, but I love Cuban, yuca with garlic, and I love amarillos and pasteles. I mean, I love everything, so it's all good.
Great. Well, we have time for some questions from the audience. I'm going to bring our panelists back up here on the screen if folks had some questions for them that they hadn't asked yet. Iane, did you see any questions in the chat too? Ken has a question.
go ahead, Ken.
Right. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm loud. What can I say? I'm a music journalist, so I'm sort of in the entertainment business. This was a bloody good presentation. You guys are all real charismatic. First sort of comment or whatever is, I'm Jewish, but not Orthodox, not very observant, but it was interesting to hear that so many of these cuisines are pork-based. So I'm not very experienced with that. Okay, so there we are with that. The Sonia, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I am a music journalist. I want to know more about your festival. I have a
Definitely.
I will send you a Facebook friend request. I have a few connections in Brazil, not a lot, but wait till you find out who the guy is that I do know. Birdie, Phil, your article was great. I'm tempted to ask if you're a journalist. Let's see. Yeah, not much experience with him. Oh yes, Romberto's presentations are now making me want to visit Cuba. I mean, that's pretty wild. I have no knowledge of it. Cuba has been demonized in this country for so long. I think that's wrong.
I agree.
Yes, yeah, a bunch of hippies here, I know. And anyway, very great presentation. I think you guys are all charismatic, and you can probably, if you're on Facebook, expect a friend request. So,
Hey, Ken,
yeah.
On Facebook, I'm as Agua Doce. Or you can, I just put my email. If you send me an email, I can send you my information. I'm not as Sonia Pessoa, it's Agua Doce.
Yeah, I copied your email down. I copied your email down.
Yes.
So you are or are not on Facebook?
Not as Sonia Pessoa, as Agua Doce. Yeah, Agua Doce.
I just wrote on a chat, Agua Doce on Facebook.
Okay.
In
Vou send me an email.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
I assume that's Portuguese or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, sweet water.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Okay, good to see you, Ken. Okay, who else has a question for our panelists? My mom, Barbara in San Diego.
Barbara.
I have a question. None of you mentioned goat. Do you cook goat?
Goat.
Well, in Brazil, we have this the goat stomach. That's the one that the politicians like to eat to prove that they love people in Northeast. So that's one of the dishes in Brazil. A buchada de bode.
Josie was nodding. Josie, can you unmute and share?
Yeah, we've had what we call fricassé de cabro. So you make it very similar to a chicken fricassé, like they would do in Cubanos here at the restaurant, but you use the cabrito.
It sounds lovely. The best meat I've ever eaten in my life was right after Lisa was born. So it was quite a long time ago. And one of our friends, a Mexican gentleman, cooked goat in the ground. And it was, I still dream about it. It was delicious.
Cabrito. I think they call it cabrito. They dig a hole.
Cabrito. Well, in Italian, it's cabrito. I know.
I think it's the
because the
same
Italians cook it, but they cook it. They cook it in the oven or on a spit.
Well, I've seen it in Belen, New Mexico, where they dig a big hole, they put a bunch of charcoal in, they put the entire goat in there, and they cover it over, with soil, and they let it bake in that earthen ground oven overnight. And then by the time you take it apart, they pull it out and it just shreds apart, and it's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way this was cooked. It was
It sounds great. Oh, I'm starving now.
I would add that in Barbara, that in Puerto Rico, we call it cabrito as well. And actually you brought to mind one of Papi's, my Papi's favorite dishes was a fricassé de cabrito. And it is like fricassé de pollo. And of course, the accompaniment, the basic plate is always white rice. And you just put that right on top of el plato de arroz blanco.
Made with lard.
Lard and love, they go together.
Oh, lard and love.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, I want to add also that in Mexico, we have a goat-based soup, which is called birria.
Oh, birria. Oh,
birria.
Okay.
And it's made of goat also. Yeah.
It's
like a soup.
Is birria?
You can make birria is the kind of way they cook. You can make with goat or beef. You can make tacos, tacos with birria. There are taco birrias, al pastor, different kinds.
We have shredded meat, marinated.
Those are calling from River. Is this Elliot? I was like, who's calling? I was like,
we have many birria places here. I did not know that was goat. I thought it was just a type of beef.
That's reassuring.
I'll have to try it.
Yeah, the typical one is made with goat soup, birria soup. They make in Mexico. It's not. It's very hard to find it here in the United States. I actually never found it.
Europe, I haven't heard about so.
Hi, Ed. Did you have a question too? Hi, Ed. Were you asking a question? Thanks, Mommy.
Lisa, I posted again. Sonia Pessoa is teaching a class right here downtown in Tacoma Park, very close to downtown.
No, I'm not teaching. I'm bringing a lady from Cuba. Actually, she lives in Miami. This lady Valdez, she's a Cuban. November is Black Conscious Month in Brazil, and we celebrate Zumbi. I don't know if you guys know about Zumbi, November 20th. So I'm celebrating through dance, and she's teaching the dance of the Orishas, which is most like African gods. So she's teaching Saturday and Sunday, and I'm bringing a lady from Brazil who also teaching the same dance in Bahia, because we both worship Orishas, has Cuba in Brazil, they're the same orishas, but of course the way they dance or they talk, like the rhythm a little bit different. So I always want to do the Brazilian style and the Cuban style. You know? So I'm doing that in celebrating of the African history, the Brazilian Black Conscious Month.
That's
Yeah, I
great.
posted
If you
again
love to
because
dance, if you wanna, if you know anyone, we're gonna be talking. It's gonna be a dance, but also a little bit of discussion about that. Saturday afternoon from 1:30 to 5, and Sunday from 10 to 2:30.
Okay,
So
great.
you guys can email me and I can send the information, you know.
I just want to remind you when I posted again because there was a glitch. I think you put zombie, Eventbrite. So I fixed it at the zombie.eventbrite.
Eventbrite.com, yes.
Yeah, so there was a
Thank
little,
you.
but that's what it
Question
is.
for Sonia, is there a food that's that ties into the zombie? Or also with the, is there certain foods that are connected to the orishas?
Yes, yes. Some of the foods, for example, the vatapá is something that you do as part of the worship for Iane and Xangô. We have the caruru. We have acarajé is pretty much worship that you do for Iane. If you do in round shape, it's for Iane. If you do more in a cylindrical shape, it's for Xangô. And called acara, rice, beans, you know, all of them are cooked with palm oil and onion and ginger. Okay, there could be a whole talk about that because there is a lot of food that we use to worship the orishas, and each one you worship. For example, for Iemanjá, we use rice to do the worship. But not Zumbi. Zumbi was a slave. Zumbi was a slave that escaped slavery and created the Palmares, which was a place for safety for the slaves. So he's not as worship in full.
Right.
But if you talk about Shango, Ogun, Oshosi, some of the god warriors, yes.
I would love to invite you to do a full talk on that sometime, Sonia, maybe
Definitely.
around before Carnival or something. That would
Yes,
be
send
cool.
me email, yes, and I'll be happy to.
Obrigada.
De nada.
Yanni, did you say I see a lot of activity in the chat. Someone is asking if a recording will be available. Yes, we will share that with you. I will email everyone who registered. Yes, and there's a lot of people thanking all of our panelists for a wonderful talk. So just again to reiterate, November 19th through 20th is the Black Consciousness Month in Brazil celebration. With dance classes will be held at Roda Movimento or Rhoda Movements in
Rhoda Movements.
Yeah, right. Great. Does anyone else in the audience have questions or comments for the panelists before we close?
Yeah, just a quick comment. This is Carlos. When you were talking about the different ways of cooking goat, if you're not cooking a whole goat, you can also cook it in a Dutch pot on the stove. You put your curry and your other seasonings in it, let it marinate overnight, and it cooks for about 3 hours on a medium heat. And we use that in our roti in Trinidad.
Oh.
What's your background, Carlos? Because you're like we had a little comment to all the foods. I was like, I'm gonna ask him.
Well, from me, Caribbean and Latin culture mixed quite a bit. You know, they interspersed with Cuban culture, with Cultura de Puerto Rico, you know, and throughout the hemisphere. So I touch on a little bit of everything. I don't limit myself in that way. We have our own, you know, traditional things we do in Trini culture, but I expose myself to all the rest of it and love it as well. That's why you see that my commenting is all over the place like that.
Okay. You were in a talk about the diaspora, the African diaspora, right?
We did. And we're going to do a Caribbean specific one because it's so rich culture. So, and I identified someone during the African diaspora talk who is very knowledgeable and would like to host it. So that will be happening in a few months. So I will keep your contact, Carlos, and be inviting you. So, and I hope you can join us Wednesday at El Golfo for the Caribbean Steel Drum event with
I love steel pan is my thing, so I'm going to try my best to make it. Yeah.
They're excellent. Yeah, well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having this. Thanks to all the hosts.
Thank
you.
Lisa,
Yes.
so I'm gonna do really quick. So one thing, we're talking about other foods like goat, etc. In El Salvador, as a young child, my grandmother made a dish called pollo loco. It's basically a stew over rice and vegetables. Now, many years later, you know, I always noticed that around the kitchen, you know, she would have leather and of different animals. And the one animal she had after eating a huge pot of pollo loco was iguana, garrobo. And I had no clue that that was what she was making. And I swear, when I was washing my hands after eating this massive stew of pollo loco, I told my grandma, qué interesante, how interesting, the leather, what are you going to do with it? I said, well, you know, I'll sell it to someone from the market and they'll stuff it and then they'll sell it, right? Like for like airport trinkets and everything. And when I looked at it, I was like, wait, what? And she looked, yeah, pollo loco, that's what you just ate. And I felt all of the iguanas I've eaten over the last 17 years trying to scratch their way out of my esophagus. But it's really good. It's really good. So I don't know, in Puerto Rico and there's garros or iguanas everywhere. I know in El Salvador they do. And it's good.
It's like chicken.
In Trinidad,
Yeah, it tastes like chicken.
With dumplings.
Yeah.
We cook it in Trinidad too.
It's kind of like eating snake or I've had alligator, you know, Cajun cuisine. But I knew when I was in El Salvador, we saw iguanas. Someone was telling me about iguanas being on the menu. You know, especially the rural. So, you know, it's
delicious,
nutritious, and it's abundant, and you know, people eat all kinds of things all over the world, and we, you know, I'm sure some of the things we eat people would find strange too. I have to keep reminding myself of that, but yeah, that's great. But the grandmothers, you mentioned your grandmother. I mean, our grandmothers, especially, I think, played such a role in our, you know, lives growing up and provided so many of the fond memories and the comfort food and the nurturing and the reassurance and kindness. And you know, my grandmother was really awesome, so you know, we miss her a lot too. So I connect to her through my food memories and all the delicious Italian food she made. But she could also make very good tacos and other Mexican dishes. So great. I see yeah, so more folks are thanking in the chat. Anyone else have a final comment or question? Sandra says, I super enjoyed the host. Iane, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, with those fun people around it.
Wasn't Iane the perfect host? I knew Iane would be a great host for this.
Thank you. I'm having fun. When Lisa described the subject and everything, I was like, that's gonna be fun hearing all those stories. And on top of being hungry, right? I ate dinner and everything, but you know, like wakes your brains, right?
Did you have another comment, Gilberto? Your hand was raised, or was it just still up?
No, I was clapping. I was clapping.
Yeah, for either one, I keep forgetting. Well, any closing thoughts from our panelists before we close?
Yes,
Don't forget
I think.
to vote.
Vote, yes. Yes, we have to vote in Brazil too. It's a very important election.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have to. You know, I think food is something so important to us because that connects so many cultures. You know, as a dietitian, food is important all levels, because we are the only creature that cooks whatever we eat, and we are the only creature that eats for pleasure, but nobody can survive without food, right? Everything that lives, they breathe, eats. So food is very important to us in any way, many forms. So it's also a way to connect everybody. I mean, I have not been to India, but I love curry. So a lot of people never been to Brazil and they eat picanha, feijoada. So it's a way to travel through the taste, through your stomach, to your flavor. It's something very important. And it's important to do things like that because we can talk about food, in a relaxed way. And what is good for me may not be good for somebody else. I love mokoto. I don't know if you guys know what mokoto is. Iane know. Mokoto is the feet of the pig, the gelatinous part of the feet. And when you put that in the feijoada, adds a delicious flavor, but there has a gooey kind of texture. And I brought a friend once to Brazil, and I was so happy and that he was going to try that. The poor man almost threw up because he said when he put that in the mouth, that was so gelatinous. And I saw that his mouth was closed and he was sweating, and I thought he was feeling sick. He was embarrassed that he could not swallow the food, but he did not want to spit on the table. And my mom said, no, go ahead, because he said, I can't. And that is someone who has eaten so many different foods, he has traveled over the world, but that texture was not something that he was expecting. And at first I was disappointed, but then realized, what is good for me may not be good for you, like what I think is delicious. It's like buchada. I don't think I'll eat buchada, no.
Me
I
neither.
eat the one from the cow, which is, but yes, you just need to be open-minded and try. Like iguana, I have friends from Guyana. You go to his house, and Yanni may know in Keith, and he loves to cook iguana, and I just cannot eat it. And he used all those curry, that beautiful flavor, I can't. Like I would have to eat like Gilberto, like if somebody tell me it's chicken, not in iguana. So yeah, food is something very interesting,
Yeah. Ed has a quick story, he said. Are you
Yeah.
there, Ed?
To find him to bring him on the screen. Let's unmute you, Ed.
He was here right now. He just
He's
yeah,
here.
we're
We just
gonna
need
hear.
to unmute. And Ed is our immediate past president, and he's still on our board of directors for SSTCI. Hi, Ed.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hey.
Yep.
Do you hear?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so we were in Oaxaca in southern Mexico, and in our guidebook, it told us to come to a great restaurant, and it was very hard to get there. You go down a wall, you turn in the third door, you go across a field, and we just thought there's no way there's going to be a restaurant there, but there was, and the food was really delicious. So we're telling the man that his restaurant is in our guidebook, and he was very interested, and he said, and do you want dessert? And we said, we're thinking, of course we want dessert. Everything was made fresh and made from fresh ingredients. So we said, so what do you have for dessert? And he says, well, we have Hey Latino. And we couldn't figure out what Hey Latino is, but he says, it is the best. It is the most wonderful. You're going to love it. So I said, okay, if this guy is a good source, so we're going to take what he says. And he comes out with a dish of screaming yellow Jello, and because Hey Latino is gelatin, is Jello, and after the wonderful fresh meal, he says, "Well, isn't it everything I told you? Such a wonderful dessert." And of course, we had to tell him that it was wonderful.
Phew! I thought he would have offered you the gelatinous part of the cow's feet or pig feet,
Oh,
which is a little more difficult for people to face, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
Oaxacan food is a real specialty too, a specialty cuisine. We have some restaurants here in the DC area that specialize in Oaxacan cuisine. Oyamel, is it Oyamel? And then another one,
Yeah, I
Oregon,
think that's what.
escaping me. I knew the chef for a little while. Yeah, so great.
That almost sounds like a Robert Crumb cartoon, the ending to your story.
Oh, I have a feijoada that's coming up that I have to announce to you guys. Hold on, let's see if I can. Can I announce it, Lisa?
Sure, go ahead.
This organization that's doing, if I can find it here. Yeah, so that's a good opportunity to eat a good feijoada, and the people are very friendly. Let me see if I can access here. It's gonna be at the end of this month. Unfortunately, I won't be there. You know, a great chance to. I don't have to cook a feijoada, and then you can eat somebody else's feijoada. That's the best of the worlds. So, yeah, I can't download. So let's keep talking, and I'm gonna download and send it and post it right here.
Well, good. Well, I think is that who's your friend that does the catering? He does feijoada?
That's Francisco. Yeah, he used to have a restaurant in DC, but I don't think he has that restaurant any longer.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but these people they are doing. I can send out. Well, I mean, I don't know where I can post on.
Email it to me, and I'll send an email to everyone who registered. And so anyway, this has been great. I know people are getting hungry, and
A lot more interesting than I expected it to be. This is a really wild presentation. I thought y'all were really good.
yes, thank you so much to our host Iane for one.
Thank you guys. Woo!
To all of our panelists, Bill and Brandy.
Thank you.
Jaime, Josie, Roberto, and Geraldina, Gilberto, Ada, Sonia Pessoa, and Janito. So anyway, our time has come to an end, but we will definitely do this again and join us. Keep a lookout on our programs, because we're gonna do the whole face of the earth. We're gonna do a Jewish cuisine, and European and Caribbean and African American. We have all these lined up. Something
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, we've already done API and African heritage. So yeah.
Don't forget to do the live part so we can try some of the food. Yeah, that'll be.
Yeah, it's hard to do. You have to really have experience to do the demo of the cookie. You have to have special cameras set up, and so
you could have the food ready. You don't have
we can do the party, like the meeting where every one of us brings something so we can try. It will be nice.
I wonder if having an event with different, I don't know how to put this, foods from different regions is possible, makes sense. I don't know. I've never tried to organize anything like that in my entire life. So
SFGCI does a lot of potlucks, and we, encourage people to bring dishes around the globe, and have had a lot of diverse meals together. So, and now that we're on the other side of COVID, hopefully we're getting back together more, and we'll get together. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us. This has been fantastic. And thank you again to Iane for hosting.
Thank you guys. So much
Have
fun.
Rest of the evening. And we'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Be well and stay safe.
Yeah.